What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Run Pure Sports Morning Show. I am your host, Mangone. I am back with DC. We're doing day baseball. It's fun times here over at Run Pure Sports. You do not want to miss out. Get in the Discord chat, like the video, subscribe, do all the stuff that we asked. That way we don't have to tell you. It'd just be way easier that way. So please hit that like and subscribe to the channel. But DC, I'm going to bring you in. You said you've been a little sick this week, but one thing that can cure the sickness is a little bit of day baseball. So how are you doing? And are you excited to just watch baseball all day?
Yeah, 6 early games, a little under the weather this week, but we soldier on, and we do have some day baseball, obviously, to carry you through, get some sweats in early on, get back for the late slate, and hopefully pick some winners for the people for our own lineups. This early slate, we've had a lot of slates where it's like, man, there's like 6, 7, 8 pitchers that I think you can kind of use interchangeably. This early one's a little rough, though. Not many of these guys have all got, kind of holes to pick in them. It's not like we're seeing massive totals, but a bunch of these guys just aren't fantastic pitchers. Many of them won't work deep in a game. So in the 6-gamer, it is a little slim pickings at the pitcher spot.
Yep, we got 6 games to talk about, so it should be a good time. There's no cores on the slate, which always gets me excited, so I'm happy about that at least. But let's dive in. Let's talk about some of these games. But before we do that, guys, please, again, like and subscribe to the video. That helps us out a ton. Also, want to mention the schedule for the day. That way the people know what's going on. So I'll pull it up now for the shows and let you know what's going on today. So there were some schedule changes. 3 p.m. on the premium side. That is the golf show with Big T, Uncle T, and Tambo. So you want to check that out, 3 p.m. Eastern. Then 4:45 is the MLB Swing for the Fences show. There's a slate tonight, so you want to get on those contests. And then at 6 o'clock tonight, we got the final countdown show. We'll be talking NBA. Big T and JSU, they were live yesterday. They were there with Glock. I jumped on, K Fallick, and even Holden was there. We were all having a good time, 6 of us. And we talked about the Derek White fade, right? If you were in the chat, it was a good time, a good conversation. So you got to get in on the Up the Lock show for NBA to check out all the crazy fades that people are making, all the good plays that people are on. You got to watch that show. It's definitely a must watch. DC. Let's dive in though now. Let's talk about this pitching slate because we talked about it before, like pitching, like there's not guys that like you want to target. There's also not guys like I'm jumping a roster. I'll say that. Like it's just overall, it's like kind of a meh slate. Who are some of the pitchers that you are keying in on for this one?
Yeah, for my money, Justin Verlander kind of stands alone up top. Missed much of the last 2 seasons, I think, with the Tommy John surgery, but I mean, he seems pretty much back to the dominant version of Justin Verlander that we saw for years and years with the Astros, slowly but surely ramping that pitch count up to get up to 91 pitches in his last outing against Texas. Faces a Seattle team who he faced in his second start of the year, shut them out over 8 innings, 8 strikeouts, no walks. He's been awesome. And there's really no reason to, expect that production to fall off for Justin Verlander. The matchup against Seattle is obviously proven he can handle it. Plenty of strikeouts to be had in that lineup. 10.1K on DraftKings. I think, I'm sure he's going to be the most popular. I haven't looked at ownership projections yet so far this morning. Of course, I'll do that before making lineups and all that, but I assume he's going to carry 40, 50% of ownership on this slate. Sometimes you got to eat the chalk. I think this might be one of those slates that you got to do that. So Justin Verlander, the clear number 1 for me. After that, though, I think you can make a case for a few guys, but no slam dunk plays, right? The next highest priced guy, Tyler McGill for the Mets, another pitcher off to a fantastic start. Obviously, given the state of baseball right now, there's many pitchers off to great starts. And I've been a fan of Tyler McGill, no doubt about it. I've also said, before that last start against Philly, I do think a little bit of regression is coming Tyler McGill's way. I don't think he is quite the ace level pitcher that he's shown so far. He performed well again against Philadelphia, but started to show maybe a few cracks, only made it 5 innings, 3 walks to 5 strikeouts. Again, a good start results wise, but the dominance for him is starting to fall off. The Braves lineup obviously has Acuna back, a strong lineup overall. So McGill, I'm sure he'll carry some ownership up top. I understand why. Probably a fade for me. we keep going, 6 games. We can talk about most of these guys. Mike Clevenger making his first start. Again, another kind of like a similar timeline to Verlander, I believe, Tommy John surgery, but this is his first start of the year. Did look really good in the in the minor leagues in his rehab starts, but only I think got up to 3.2 or 4 innings. So 8,700 for him. Matchup back home in Cleveland, who do make pretty good contact overall. He's probably kind of a relatively easy cross off for me. And in the next 2 guys, if we kind of go 8K and up as the first tier, I do like Adam Wainwright. Not the most exciting pitcher, right? Not going to get you a ton of strikeouts necessarily, but will probably go deep into games. Went 100 pitches in his last start, 94, 92 in the 2 starts before those. He gets a pretty good matchup against the Royals, so I don't like him. But I do think my preferred SP2 behind Justin Verlander is Eliseo Hernandez for the Marlins, a pitcher that I do pick on with lefty bats fairly frequently. He's got kind of a home run issue, but he gets a really, really prime matchup against, I guess not really, really prime, because I think maybe I might change my mind a little bit here, because the Diamondbacks have, I think, all 9 lefties in there for Hernandez, which is a little bit scary. He was my preferred SP2 coming into the slate. I hadn't seen that lineup quite yet. So I'll have to dig a little bit, see how he's been against lefties so far this year. I know in the past he's really struggled against them. So Eliseo Hernandez was the guy I was looking at, but now seeing that lineup, that's a little bit concerning. So Verlander up top, and I guess maybe we still got to figure out who we're rocking with at SP2.
Yeah, well, I'm seeing right now Tyler McGill is SP2 on the slate. Verlander's definitely SP1 that people are just going to load up on.
Yeah.
McGill looks like he's going to be the second highest owned pitcher. And
yeah, that's a relatively easy fade for me, honestly.
Yeah, and I honestly think it makes the case for a Brave stack as like being interesting.
Yes.
The only issue I have with the Brave stack here, DC, is like, I like them more when it's a lefty rather than a righty, just because like it seems like if you look at McGill's stats, like lefties are what give him the problems. And there's only 2 lefties in the lineup. So like that is something that's a little bit of a concern for me. So something to think about. But hey, there's a lot of leverage there that you can gain. And if it's just a bad outing for him, hey man, it could just blow up completely and that offense can put up a lot of runs. So there's definitely a good case to be made. That Diamondbacks game, Marlins game, that's not looking like a bad game to target up and load up on, just because you look at those 2 pitchers, Hernandez and Bumgarner, with all those lefties in there, like was just talked about. Like, yeah, you can make the case that Hernandez can struggle. We know Madison Bumgarner can have struggles, and there are some righties that can get a hold of him in that lineup. So those are 2 pitchers that I'm definitely not looking to play. I might look to play those offenses. You talked about Clevenger. It is a Clevenger revenge game, right? Right, DC? Yep. Even though it was against the, he used to be an Indian. Now it's the Guardians. He still used to pitch in Cleveland. So there's the Clevenger revenge game. And I always like playing Adam Wainwright. He's always treated me pretty well. Now, Adam Wainwright is not known as like this like amazing strikeout guy, but in this kind of like new era of baseball where like the ball's kind of dying, some of these older pitchers that are crafty, it feels like a good time for them to be pitching. And like, I'm not really super scared of this Royals offense. So I think you get away with that. And like another pitcher who hasn't been too bad, the issue is it's a 6-game slate. I don't know if I need to go this cheap. Like he's been really bad this year, but Michael Pineda, he gets the Pirates, and the Pirates aren't anything special. The other thing too is like, maybe no one plays like this Pirates Tigers game. They just pass on this game completely. And like, you got pitchers that are just not that great pitching in that game in general, where like, maybe you can take advantage of that. I just think it's so wide open what to do at SP2. I think I'm clearly going to eat the Verlander chalk, like you talked about. Yeah. And then SP2, I just feel like I'm rolling the dice, and I'm going to just want to get on something that's maybe lower ownership. Maybe it's Ian Anderson to target the Mets because it's just a little different, and maybe people won't go about that. And he's a talented pitcher. I'm not sure how I want to go about it yet, DC, but I think the conversation that we're having now is just like, I don't think you want to go McGill. I think it's a good fade to not go McGill, plug Verlander in there, and then plug in someone else for your SP2, and then play whatever offense that you want. And maybe the conversation is what we talked about with Hoop the other day. Maybe it's, we plug in Verlander, we figure out our offense, and then we plug in the second pitcher. Does that make sense to you?
It does. Not as much so as the other day, just because there's fewer options to choose from, shorter slate, and just the quality of pitchers on this slate is much less than when we were doing that. But I'm with you, Verlander, especially looking at that Diamondbacks lineup again. I figured they'd go lefty heavy. I didn't realize they would be able to or would roll out 9 lefties. I did dig into Hernandez a little bit as you were talking. Man, he still just gives up so much power to left-handed bats. So I don't think I've rolled out a Diamondback stack yet this year, or not very often anyway. Might try it against Hernandez, some of those lefties with power in the Arizona lineup. We'll talk about those guys when we get to stacks and hitters and all that. But much less encouraged about Hernandez than I was when I woke up and was looking at the slate this morning. Yeah, Wainwright, like you mentioned, especially on a slate like this, right, Mangone, where SP2 is pretty sketchy. Maybe you just take your hopefully 15 to 20 fantasy points from Wainwright, but that Royals lineup is getting better. They're contact heavy. So I'm not super excited about him. You mentioned Michael Pineda. Hasn't really worked up the pitch count too much. He had a slow start to the season. I think he had like a visa issue. Threw 60 pitches that first outing against New York, made it through 5 shutout innings. Then 65 against Minnesota, was hit a little bit in that one. But, you know, he is a true starter that can give you 90 plus pitches. Normally, he's made 2 starts. Maybe he's up to close to 80 plus pitches, and he gets the Pirates right at home in Detroit. And he's super cheap, 5,800. So I think Pineda does make some sense. I like that call. And then a couple other guys here in the mid-range. Ian Anderson for the Braves, another pitcher that is stretched out, will give you a full workload if things are going at all well for him. It's just the Mets lineup is really, really contact heavy. So strikeouts are going to be hard to come by. They've been a good lineup overall. So I don't love the matchup, but 7,400 is an under price point for a pitcher of Anderson's talent. And I don't think I'm going to play a whole bunch of lineups this morning, but if I was, I would have some Matt Brash in there. It's been a struggle for Brash outside of that first start, but he has really, really incredible stuff that I think even against Houston, right? Tough matchup going into Houston, no question about it. You hate the matchup, but he's capable of mowing down any lineup if he's able to locate. He's just got an incredible breaking ball, throws gas, has had success. Ton of success striking guys out in the minor leagues, and is also stretched out and good to go. Only made it 2 innings in the last start against Miami, got absolutely shelled. But he did face Houston, 3 starts ago, and pitched fairly well against them. The walks have been a problem, so that could continue. And wouldn't fault anyone who's playing an Astro stack by any means. But I do think Matt Brash at least has upside compared to the guys around him, the Bumgarners, Bryce Wilson's, Pineda, Bubic, like those guys probably aren't going to give you a big outing. Brash, at least I think, could, but he could also be the worst starting pitcher on the slate. There's no doubt about that. So a true wild card there, but on this slate, I think someone to at least consider.
All right. We got 158 watching, only 40 likes. So let's get the likes up. I gave out a Devers home run yesterday, DC. Yeah. I don't remember your play of the day. Someone said that you had a Moustakas call. Was that your play of the day? Was it Mike?
No. Someone asked me about Moustakas and said, I wouldn't recommend it. He did get his first home run in like a year and a half, but we know that's going to happen. That's just what happened. So no surprise there.
Well, yeah, maybe he was trolling you. I'm not sure, but I saw the Moustakas.
I think that was a troll, most likely. Yeah.
I got the comment, or not the comment, the notification of my phone for the home run. I saw Mike Moustakas and I said, okay, that didn't expect that.
I had my play of the day was MJ Melendez, the Royals catcher, who he did get I think he had an okay game. He did just miss a home run to opposite field. He looked really good at the plate. I watched all his at bats. He's back in there hitting 7th again today against Wainwright, and I do like him quite a bit. So maybe Melendez will come through for us today.
Well, that's a good segue. Let's go over and talk about the catcher position. Melendez is obviously on your radar at 2K. Who knows? Maybe you don't need 2K at the catcher position today, though. Not sure, but definitely someone I'm going to look at. I know people were talking in the chat yesterday. They were like, hey, I'm playing Melendez as like a 2K one-off. Like, I think it's perfectly fine way to go. If you want to do like a 5-2-1, not a bad approach. Definitely going to look at that on this slate, DC. So talk about Melendez and then talk about some of these other catchers here that you'd be looking to roster.
Yeah, personally, I'll be going right back to Melendez. Again, as I said, he looked fantastic yesterday. If anyone missed the show, I'm sure some people did. Led all of minor league baseball in home runs last year, 41 home runs across 2 levels in the minor leagues. Showed the power yesterday. I just think he's going to be really, really good hitter for the Royals, who look like they're waking up a little bit offensively. So 2K, like you said, maybe you don't need it, but I'm not going to call him the top raw points catcher on this slate, but he's not far behind. I mean, obviously you got to take, just raw points. You got to take his teammate Salvador Perez over him. I would take, I think, Travis d'Arnaud over him, assuming he's in the lineup, which he is. But man, you get beyond that and catcher gets thin in a hurry, right? There's not a whole bunch of other guys that you're really excited to play. I am excited to play a guy like MJ Melendez. So I'll probably take the savings there and maybe even leaving, if I have to, 1,000, 1,500 on the table, because I don't really see an upgrade from Melendez until I get all the way to the expensive catchers. So yeah, he'll be the guy that I use most likely on most, if not all of my lineups.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. Looking at catcher, it's like, do you go all the way to the top or you go all the way to the bottom? At least that's my kind of thought process right now. If you do, load up on the Astros offense and you want someone that people might not go to, maybe a Jason Castro who can hit one out, but I like the Melendez idea. Doesn't seem like a bad spot to punt it. Let's head on over and talk about the first base position. And Paul Goldschmidt gets a lefty. I know Paul Goldschmidt started out the year with some struggles. I believe he's still only at 1 home run. No, he's at 2 so far now. So he's starting to hit a little bit better. He had some struggles to start the year, but Paul Goldschmidt against the lefty, 5.5K, something that I think you can consider. I like some of these Marlins here against Madison Bumgarner. You get Jesus Aguilar, tons of power and pop, pretty good price tag, 4.4K on this slate. And then Garrett Cooper at 3.1. They're definitely in play. And then there's one of those Arizona guys, Seth Beer, in the 4-hole at 2.9K. So I think there's enough options at first base. I didn't even talk about the lefty and Matt Olson who gets Tyler McGill. So there's enough options to go to here. Who are some of the first basemen you're looking at, DC?
Yeah, you hit on most of them. I do think you could make a good case for Goldschmidt being the top guy. Chris Bubic pitching for the Royals, just not any good. Cardinals loaded up. Their whole lineup is always loaded up with right-handed bats, but especially today, I think, all 9 hitters can swing from the right side. Goldschmidt historically is just mass lefties. Looks like kind of a perfect matchup for him. So I do think he is the top dog at the position today. You could even play his teammate Albert Pujols. Frankly, he's probably going to get pitch in for, but he'll have a couple chances to take Bubic deep. Still crushes lefties, frankly. I like Seth Beer against Hernandez. All those Arizona lefties, I'm gonna be pretty high on those guys today. Some pinch hit risks, but I think Seth Beer will probably stay in there. Not 100% sure on that, but I do like him quite a bit. But yeah, the leverage play here, pretty clearly Matt Olson, right? We think Tyler McGill, good shot at coming in as the second highest owned pitcher on the slate, maybe third highest at worst, at lowest. And yeah, Olson just crushes righties. He's been hot. Hit a home run yesterday. They had a doubleheader. And swinging a good bat. I've been talking about him, waiting for him to get hot. It's coming for Matt Olson. McGill has really struggled against lefties historically. So I really like the Matt Olson play. Maybe you don't have to stack the Braves, but you take the best bat against him, right? Maybe you take the one off on the Matt Olson call, swinging from the left side there. I really, really like that call. Another guy I'll mention, Spencer Torkelson, hitting 5th for the Tigers. He's been solid this year, relative to the league at least. 2,700, gets to go up against Dylan Peters probably in his first at bat, and then Bryce Wilson and whoever else Pittsburgh throws out there as the game progresses. So he'll have good matchups all game long. So quite a few options, whether you want to spend, get leverage with Olson, or even go cheaper with a guy like Seth Beer or Spencer Torkelson.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of options at first base. Seems like a pretty good position. Let's go over to the second base. Let's talk about the top guys, because I see at the bottom, I see John Birdie's definitely going to have some ownership, right? He gets bats first, 3.2K. You can play him at second base or third base. Some more options to roster him as well. So he's pretty good at 3.2K. But then after that, you go to Jose Altuve at 4.7. And I'm just going to rattle off like all the guys that I think are in play on this slate. And there's a lot of good ones. So like, I don't even know what the second base position looks like for the night slate, but there's some good ones on this one. Jose Altuve at 4.7. That's too cheap of a tag. I said it yesterday. 4.6, too cheap for Altuve. He hits a home run yesterday. He gets Brash. It seems like a pretty good spot for Altuve at that price. Jake Cronenworth against Plesac. I'm not scared of Plesac. You get Cronenworth in the 2-hole there. I think he's a pretty good play. Ozzie Albies, we talked about it. Tyler McGill, if you are going to target him, do it with the lefties. There's 2 lefties on the Braves you can put in there. Ozzie Albies, Matt Olson, and just move on for the mini stack. If you want to do like a 5-2-1 that way, that's a great way to do it. Or make it a 5-3 and throw in one more of those righties. And then you also got Tommy Edman against Bubic, who I don't mind. He seems like a safe, decent option. And then Jazz Chisholm, he's been amazing this year, and he's in the 6 hole. No one's going to play a guy in the 6 hole at that price. And we just might have the salary to be able to do that. And he's just going to be under owned. So if you are playing a Marlin stack at 5.8K, you have a lot of cheap guys in the Marlin stack that you can roster that I think he's a good play. And I know I just rattled off most of the guys, DC, but I want to hear the way you rank them because I think it's a really loaded position for being a 6-game slate for second base.
Yeah, I think you got most of them. You mentioned Tommy Edman hitting leadoff for the Cardinals. Cardinals probably my favorite stack overall today against Bubic. So I do like him. Again, another guy you're gonna have to pay for 5,300. Maybe that holds his ownership down to some degree. I don't mind the Chisholm call. Just a dynamic player, lefty, hitting 6, super expensive. Like you said, all those reasons are going to hold his ownership way down. So that's always something we want to take advantage of in baseball. Cronenworth looks good. And then I do really like Ketel Marte of the Diamondbacks, another guy off to a slow start, but that's reflected in the price, 3,700. And he did barrel up 3 baseballs yesterday. He didn't have a lot to show for it, but last 3 games, he's been hitting better, 11, 10, 14 fantasy points. And I do think, he's going to have a good year. Diamondbacks, the counting stats are going to be hard to come by, but he's a really good hitter. Hitting 6th, which will, I think, keep that ownership in check a little bit for the Diamondbacks, but he's also a switch hitter, right? So he's one of the guys, like a lot of this lineup, you got to worry at least a little bit about the pinch hit risk when Hernandez comes out of the game if they bring in a lefty. But Ketel Marte is not going to come out of the game unless he, gets hurt or something like that. So 3,700 for him hitting 6th. I think he would be the top kind of point per dollar player for me on the slate. But yeah, that Ozzie Matt Olson stack looks pretty good for leverage. And you mentioned most of the other guys. Yeah, loaded position today at second base for sure.
Yep, we got people in the chat talking about Pavin Smith a little bit. We see some Clevenger talk to. And while we go over to third base here, DC, I do want to get some takes on Clevenger from you because we haven't talked anything about the Cleveland Guardians. And Jose Ramirez at third base is definitely a good spend up that you can go to. And what if Clevenger's not right? You know what I mean? Noah Syndergaard didn't look that great last night. We took advantage of him a little bit. So I think there are some opportunities here of some unknown of taking advantage of him. Arenado gets a lefty, and Arenado against a lefty is always in play at 6'1". Manny Machado, 5'7". I can always be sold on Manny Machado. And again, I don't think Plesac's that good. Bregman is a pretty good option against Brash. So it's kind of like second base. A lot of good spend up options that you can go to. And then the cheap John Birdie that you can plug into your lineup if you like at 3.2K. So what's your overall thoughts here on the third base position, do you think?
Yeah, this will be the case with a lot of positions where the Cardinals guy kind of stands out to me as being one of the top guys on the slate. So yeah, Arenado, 6,100, you're certainly paying the price, but another guy that historically has just absolutely mashed lefties. Bubic, one of the worst starting lefties in baseball. So if you can afford him, you can. There's enough value out there. Arenado, my top guy. Jose Ramirez, like you said, not far behind. I think people will probably not go there just because of facing the big name Clevenger. But listen, we haven't seen Clevenger pitch in the big leagues since I believe 2020. I don't think he pitched at all last year. And even in that year, he only threw I think a few innings. So who knows what we'll see from Clevenger? But certainly advantage Jose Ramirez regardless. So I do like him quite a bit. You mentioned Machado. This does seem like mostly a spend position to me. Of course, there are some cheaper guys that you can go to. You mentioned John Birdie at second base. You can play him at third base as well. So he'll be certainly a popular play given that he can use him at both positions leading off for the Marlins. And then Bobby Witt got his first home run yesterday. Another guy that I think that the hot streak's coming sooner rather than later for him. You don't necessarily love the matchup with Wainwright, but you're not scared of that one, right? He's certainly hittable at least. He's 3,100 in hitting next to one of my favorite plays on the slate, I believe, in MJ Melendez. So I kind of like that little Witt Melendez mini stack down there in the middle bottom third of the Royals lineup. So yeah, that's third base for the most part for me.
Yep, third base, definitely a lot of guys at the top that you can go to. We didn't even talk about Austin Riley if you want to do the Braves stack. But again, more so like the lefties. But if you're just going to go all in on it, hey, Austin Riley's going to have zero ownership on this.
He's creaming baseballs, right? He's just crushing it right now. 7 home runs on the year. There's not many of those guys hitting the ball as hard as he is. So you'll get what? I don't know, sub 5% ownership on Austin Riley.
That was like Yordan Alvarez. I was like building out my team yesterday with I was doing like some Astro stacks with Boston. And as I built it out, DC, I said, I got to at least make sure I have Yordan on a team, right? Like I can't not have him. I mean, and even though he hit one, like he's been on fire, I was like, is this the day it stops? I don't know. And it didn't stop, right? So had him in my lineups. Definitely think you got to get these guys in who are just like kind of streaking right now. I think it just the way baseball is. I mean, they're guys that just can't hit, and there's guys right now that can. So it sounds stupid and simple, but it's just the truth right now. So guys, if you could like and subscribe to that video, helps us out a ton. We got tons of content coming out over here at Run Pure Sports today. I'll run through the schedule again for you guys. We got 3 o'clock on the premium side. Big T, Uncle T, Tambo. They'll be talking some PGA DFS, so be sure to check that show out. That's on the premium side. 4:45. MLB Swing for the Fences show. I believe it's me, you. I think it's me and you, or we'll be back, or I don't know. Me and Hoop switched today. I can't remember who's on, but I know you'll probably be there. I think Title will be there, but it'll be a fun time. Whoever's there, it'll be good. There'll be winners being given out, so you want to check that out. And then 6 o'clock, we got the final countdown show. It's a 7:30 lock for NBA, but they're starting at 6. So you got Big T, JSU. They'll be leading you up to lock. Shortstop position, DC. Let's talk about that because I kind of looked at this slate and I was like, hey, like this Detroit or Pittsburgh side, it's just probably not going to have ownership from the hitter's perspective because no one ever wants to play the Tigers or the Pirates. And then all of a sudden I look at shortstop and there's not a lot of guys to roster and everyone's on Javi Baez. He looks like he's like the chalk of the slate because he's going against a lefty and it's just not a good position. Do I eat 4.9K Javi Baez chalk or do I take a shot on someone else here at this position? Help me out, DC.
Yeah, I think Baez is the top guy. Just matchups that are fantastic all over the place. But yeah, like you mentioned, eating the chalk on Javi Baez, who has huge strikeout issues, like can easily completely bust. I'm not sure that's the best strategic decision. I like Lindor up top, 5,500. I'm not super high on the Mets today, but I do think he is this position is horrible, Mangone. Like, there's not really anybody that I am excited to play here. Like, it's just, you scroll up and down. It's just like, man, who am I going to roll out there at shortstop? It's certainly tough. Yeah, a couple cheaper guys that you can look at. Dansby Swanson is 2,900 at the bottom of that Braves lineup. Paul DeJong, big power from the right side. Hitting ninth again, same as Swanson or close to it anyway. But gets Bubic, and again, I do really like the Cardinals, so he's in play. I don't mind completely punting this position, like Willie Castro down there at 2,100, hitting 7th, a switch hitter, so he probably will be safe from the pinch hit. On this particular slate, that seems fine to me. But yeah, up top, Baez, Lindor, Jeremy Pena, if you're on the Astros, is fine, but there's really nobody to be super excited to plug in your roster today.
Yeah, I don't love a lot of guys in there. I'm trying to think of like who I could maybe take a shot on. That's like,
but what about is Rojas in the lineup? Miguel Rojas?
Yeah, Rojas in the 7 hole. I don't mind. That's someone I was thinking about. Maybe him. I see like Castro's like the second highest owned shortstop, which I don't know if that's for certain, but yeah, it's rough down here. I thought about like, if I am going to punt, do I want to like eat someone that's like chalky or just go like a dude that's virtually unowned and like Cole Tucker, but that sounds gross as well. So I don't know. It's definitely a tough position for sure. Not one of the best ones. I'll say this, don't prioritize this throughout your lineups, right? Like if you happen to like be looking throughout your teams and like you have a 5-2-1 stack or a 5-3 and you're like, man, like I don't like this shortstop. Like if you rerun everything, you still might not like your shortstop. So don't let that be everything that like just like destroys your lineups. I think that's a good way to put it. If you guys got any questions, feel free to fire them away. Anthony has one in the chat. He said, would you have Houston or St. Louis bats the most today? So DC, sound like St. Louis is your favorite, but I do think they are a team that's chalkier on this slate and it's a 6-gamer. So which bats do you like more, the Houston ones or the St. Louis, if you had to pick?
I'm on the St. Louis side just because like know for sure that the opposing starting pitcher Bubic is pretty terrible, whereas makes me a little nervous going against Matt Brash. I think he's capable of the shutdown outing, but I do think Brash, I mean, we've seen him get blown up a couple times and in his last start. Now he's got to face Houston, who might not chase those pitches. So I think you could make the case that Houston has the most upside just because I think he's more likely to completely implode than Bubic is. But I like both those teams. I mean, both the Astros and the Cardinals near the top of my list. I slightly lean St. Louis, but it's close between those two teams, no doubt.
All right. Let's move on. Let's talk about the outfield, and then we'll talk about stacks. We'll do our plays of the day, but let's see the likes. DC 225 watching, 61 likes. What do we got to get to? We got to get this into triple digits, right? I mean, if we don't get it to triple digits,
I think an even hundo is good.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if we don't get it to triple digits, our boy JT Hayes would be very disappointed in us.
Listen, we're up early. I'm under the weather. We're still grinding the baseball slate with these guys. If you're watching, come on, do us a favor, hit that like, and let's get to 100 likes.
Yeah, and it's we're at 11:32 on the East Coast. And here's the thing: we're not going to talk about outfield for 28 minutes. I'll tell you that. So. You better push this home now. Get this thing moving. We don't want JT Hayes to hop on here and yell at you guys. That it's a little too much. That's too much yelling. Too much offensive language this early in the morning from JT Hayes. We can't handle that. So, guys, slam that like button home so we can give you those plays of the day. All right, let's talk about the outfield at the top. I know you talked about Matt Brash and he's capable, but Yordan Alvarez, that dude is capable of mashing anyone at any time. 5.1K. Definitely a good option to go to, someone that I'm considering on this slate. Kyle Tucker, if I consider Alvarez, I pretty much consider Kyle Tucker. 4.6K, another good guy on this slate that I'm going to look at. You talked about some of the St. Louis guys like Harrison Bader at 3.9. I kind of have some interest in him. Maybe people don't pay a 4.8K Tyler O'Neill price tag too. Maybe that's an interesting way. Like I think the St. Louis Cardinals are going to have some ownership today, but like if I plug in Tyler O'Neill in the 6 hole and then I plug in Nolan Arenado, like I feel like those are guys that might get some lower ownership within that Cardinal stack that I'm kind of considering based on some of the conversations we had. And then Jorge Soler at 4K. That's a guy that I like a lot in the outfield. I think he's a good cash game play, good tournament play, gets Madison Bumgarner, can easily hit one out. So I mentioned some of the outfielders. There's some cheap ones too, but talk about some of the guys I mentioned and talk about some of the ones that you like, DC.
Yeah, you nailed a lot of them. The Cardinals guys, Tyler O'Neill in particular, I think are really strong plays. I'm not sure if you hit on him. Another prospect for the Cardinals hitting in the middle of that lineup, Juan Yepez. I think this might be his MLB debut. I believe so, yeah. But a big prospect for the Cardinals, power hitting right-hander. And what is he hitting, 5th or 6th? 5th, ahead of Tyler O'Neill and Harrison Bader, which kind of says a little bit about what Juan Yepez brings to the table. Expect big things out of him throughout the year. 2K even, honestly, where we do want to spend for pitching for the most part. And frankly, some of these other positions, I think Juan Yepez makes a lot of sense. Another cheap outfielder that's producing pretty well, Travis Demerit for Atlanta, 2K, and I think hitting 7th or 8th. So he's an option. And then, at the top end, I mean, hard to avoid Yordan Alvarez with what he's producing right now. Kyle Tucker hasn't been quite as good, but has been heating up lately. 2 of my favorite plays, even going up against Matt Brash, who I do like, but, tough matchup for them. You mentioned Bader. I'll always mention Julio Rodriguez as long as he stays cheap. If you're not on Justin Verlander for whatever reason in whatever lineup, Julio would be a guy that I would certainly look at.